Hi everyone, it's Susannah here with my Best Life podcast, the bi-monthly podcast where I get to talk to people I find absolutely fascinating so that they can share their wellness tips, their on how to be balanced, how to stay sane in this crazy world, what works for them. You guys know that I love talking to people that have, for me, shown how they do that. Like how do you manage going through this life and stay sane and happy and positive and all of that. So, because we need more. So, thanks for joining me for another episode. And I'm very, very excited for this week's guest. This week's guest is Katherine. She's a plant based holistic health and wellness coach. She's also a Pilates instructor. She's been aiding her clients in transformation since 2014 through movement, mindfulness, and nutrition. Her holistic approach is to bring balance to all areas of life, including joy, which you guys know I love, creativity, relationships, food, exercise, sleep, career, and more. She believes that self-love is the portal to true transformation and helps clients thrive through loving themselves more. So everyone take a moment and just welcome Katherine. And I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me today. Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, thank you for saying yes and coming on and you're gonna. I cannot wait to pick your brain on because I've just been watching you. So to give everyone a little bit of a backstory on how we know each other, we used to work at the same restaurant. Feels like 100 years ago, and I think we were probably both completely different people back then. But yeah, definitely. But we've stayed touch, and that's one of the magic pieces of social media and technology is, kind of when you're kind of drawn to people on a certain level and you stay in touch and you kind of get to watch people transform their lives. And I've just been watching you from afar and just your travels all over and just your I know we were always plant-based, together. Like I remember that was something that you were back then as well, I think. And just to watch that journey and just how you approach it is very gentle to me and also very attractive. Like it looks so like it the way you present your wellness to me is very like welcoming and soft. So that's the perception I get from watching you. And I just, I was thinking about you the other day and I was like, man, she'd be really great to talk to because I would love for people to know your journey and how you've got to where you are now, because I know like the version of you from, what was that, 12 years ago? And the woman you are today is incredible. So, and you're just touching so many people's lives in such a positive way. And I just, really couldn't wait to have you on. So thanks.
Well, thank you so much. That's so beautiful. I love that. And yeah, likewise, I've also been watching you. And that's actually one of the positive things of social media, right? That we're able to stay connected, even though sometimes it could be a little crazy with everything going on in the world and that part. But there's definitely so much positive, and that's one of the things. And I've also been watching you, and I'm like, wow, we're kind of like on a similar type path or journey. It's like, it's so interesting. And yeah, we were definitely very different people.
We were.
It feels like a different,
It was fun.
Yeah.
No, it was fun. And you got it, and it was an honest living, and it was a lot of fun. Those summer times on that patio were just, I have so many great memories from then, just because we were, we had a great time and our customers loved us, and it was great.
It was great. I mean, and we were making people happy in a way. I mean, maybe not in the best way, but
yeah. We were supporting their beer habit for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but everyone's on their own path, and if that's someone's joy, and it doesn't matter like what medium you're using or what you're doing. I feel like as long as you're making people happy, because there's a lot of people out there that do the opposite and they actually make people upset, and that's definitely not what either of us are about. So yeah, but I'm definitely happy where I am now, and I'm very grateful for everything in my life, whether at the time I perceived it as like, oh, not necessarily like working at the restaurant, but anything, even other stuff that has happened to me, even if I perceived at the time like, oh, that's like bad, or I'm ashamed, or this or that. And now I'm just so grateful because it brought me to where I am today. And everything is a learning experience. Everything teaches you something and actually makes you stronger. And I actually think that the worst things that happen are actually things that teach you the most. You know, if everything's like perfect all the time and you're just like, oh, everything's great, I have such a great life, like, you know, you might not really be like evolving and growing so much, especially spiritually. So yeah, so I'm grateful. Yeah. I'm grateful for all of it.
Yeah. So were you into the kinds of things you're into now? I mean, you know, you're into this holistic approach to wellness. I mean, was that a part of you back then that I just didn't know?
So yeah, so I would say, so like everything in life, you know, nothing's like totally linear, right? So at least in my opinion, everything's kind of like a spiral. So things will like come up, like, and then they'll come up again in another format and another format and kind of get deeper and deeper. So I was already plant-based at that time. So I already had that. I already had that connection of, oh, how, you know, how food makes me feel and how like eating an animal makes me feel and how, you know, so I did have some of that, and I definitely had movement in my life. So even when I was a child, I did like dance classes. So I always was very aware of movement is a great way to move your energy. I didn't have like the language for it maybe back then to articulate it, you know, but I understood like, oh, whatever energy is like stuck on me or whatever it is, when I go to dance class when I was a kid, I'm like, this is like a release, like if it's stress or whatever it is. And even at the time when I knew back then, I was already doing Pilates just as a client. I was not certified. I didn't even consider it that it was going to be a career at the time. I think I was in art school still, but I took time off at that time. So yeah, I thought I was going to work in fashion, which yeah, I did for a little bit, but it ended up not being aligned with me at all. And my body instantly told me, you know, just from like having anxiety and being like, oh, I don't know if I'm in the right place. And yeah, wellness and movement and just that whole, you know, sphere, that whole area of my life was always like a safe place. Like, okay, like no matter what happens, no matter what's going on, like I have this place to go to, like a Pilates class or to do a meditation or to eat something healthy. I could feel like how it's affecting my body versus, you know, eating on the go and like a package or whatever it is. So yeah, so I definitely had a little bit of it, not anywhere near how much it's in my life. Like it's basically my whole life now. And before it was just like a part of my life. So it's just, yeah, I've gotten deeper and deeper and like learned more and more. And I'm definitely much happier now for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you started to say something about kind of your body was giving off like physical alarm bells. I'd love to touch and talk about that, you know, because I think, I think a lot of people are not in touch with their bodies. You know, they're just disconnected from it. It's like this. It's there, but it's not there. It doesn't, you know, you're just like, you're not listening to what it tells you because we're just so like deprogrammed from connecting with, you know, what our body is like trying to tell us, and, you know, or we misinterpret its signals or whatever. But you know, for you, let's say, I don't know how many years ago this was, but you said you were in art school and you started to get the anxiety and some other signs from your body. Could you talk a little bit more about what that's like so maybe people can understand that, you know, something like anxiety or other things can be your body warning you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I've honestly, I've had anxiety probably my whole life. It's a lot of it's generational too. And I'm actually learning more about that now. Like, oh, a lot of the stuff I feel isn't even like fully mine. It's like passed down. And yeah, but when I worked, so yeah, your body's constantly giving you messages basically all the time. A lot of people are completely disconnected from their bodies. I've actually even worked with certain like Pilates clients, and I'm like trying to tell them like, hey, like feel this muscle, like shoulders back. And then they're like, I can't feel it. Like I'm in my head all the time. Like I'm, you know, whatever. A lot of these people are really busy. Like I'm a lawyer. I'm like working all day. Like I don't even feel my body. Like I actually want to disconnect so I could just be in my head working. And what I've realized is a lot of anxiety is just that you're in your head and you're out of your body. You're not feeling those things. And yeah, your body's constantly communicating with you. Like if you, for example, go somewhere where like, you know, people will say like, oh, bad vibes or the vibes are off. But really that's actually a feeling in your body. It could be in your gut. It could be in your heart. It could be in your solar plexus. It could be in your throat. Like, oh, I can't speak up in front of these people. I can't speak my truth. Or I have a gut feeling that that person has ill intentions, or this job I'm in feels really toxic, and you know I feel really like tense here. And So it's just about noting that and just being like, oh wow, like around this person, I feel really like contracted and I feel closed off and I can't speak my truth and whatever it might be. And so with fashion, so I loved art school, absolutely loved it. It was very project based, very creative, and that's always been like something I truly love and connect with so much.
I can
But when I
see some
started,
of your artistic side, your very creative side. It comes through on your social media. So
thank you.
if nothing else, your presentation is creative. So you're still
Yeah.
using all of those, skills.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. At one point I was like, oh my God, like I went to art school. Like, why did I do that? I've not been working. And I'm like, wait, I use it all the time. And it was an amazing thing. And for me, it wouldn't work to go to some school and do math all day long and science. I mean, that stuff is great, but that's just, it's perfect for me. And I think everything that you do in life like, you can't see it, but in hindsight, you're like, oh, actually, like that makes sense. That it's actually perfect. And yeah, everything is a teacher. I'm a hard believer of that.
Yeah.
And when I worked in fashion, I finally got into fashion. It was very anxiety producing. Everyone was very anxious. And I first worked at a magazine, an editorial. So there was like deadlines and everyone was constantly like, every month there was a lot of anxiety. People were not nice to each other. In a corporate environment, people step over people, they steal your ideas. So basically, if you can do that, kind of, I don't want to like generalize and say everyone in corporate sells their soul, but that's what it felt like to me. Because of course I know that that's not the case everywhere. It could just be in the environments I was in, but it just didn't feel aligned. I don't want to be like fake to people. I don't want to steal their ideas. I don't want to step over people. I don't want to, be a horrible person just to get ahead. And I was already doing Pilates as a client for a while. And the instructor that I was working with at the time, she's like, you asked me so many questions about anatomy and like, you're like my best client. Like, you're so good. She's like, you're almost better than me. Why don't you try to get certified? I was always like complaining to her kind of about like, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm about my job and this and that. And she's like, why didn't you just try to get certified? And I just, it was kind of a big step for me because like I said, I went to art school and I planned my life like, oh, I'm going to work in fashion. That's what I thought for all these years. And to like make such a move to go somewhere into something I did not plan, it's like planning is just so funny to me. And yeah, so I just went for it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna get certified. And yeah, I fell in love with it. That's when I realized what my purpose is. Because I think creativity, yeah, that it could be like part of my purpose to like maybe present things in a creative way or think creatively. But I definitely know my purpose is to help people in whatever way is possible. And that's when I feel most fulfilled, happiest. And that's like regardless of money, no money, I just feel so much happier helping people, helping animals, just helping. It makes me feel good. And with Pilates, I was able to do that. I constantly got amazing feedback from clients like, oh, you're the best part of my day. Like, I look forward to this all week. And you really helped me like after my baby or after my surgery, or, because people come for so many reasons, or even just like a workout, just like a release of, stress and built up energy from the week. And I don't know, I absolutely loved it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I get it now. This is what I'm supposed to do.
So it's so important to, even if you've made a decision, and you're moving forward and you're like, okay, this is what I set out to do. And then it just doesn't resonate anymore, or it changes, or your neurology or your chemical makeup changes, whatever it is, because we, regenerate our entire cellular structure every 7 years. So,
Right.
we're basically different people every 7 years. So you could start something. And I just find it really important that people understand that you can change your mind. And you actually don't have to explain yourself to anyone. And if you're doing something, even if you've been doing it for a while, even if you've invested some money in it, if your body and your heart is like screaming at you that it's just not good, you got to listen to that. Life is too short to just stay in something just because you said you were going to do it.
Yeah.
Of course, following through and things like that are important, but there is a difference to me. And it's so important to listen to your heart. Your heart says, I love art, but it's killing me. I don't want to be in this like fast paced kind of like a backstabby kind of like dramatic world. I want to be in the kind of position to where I actually make people feel good every time I see them.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Even my body was screaming at me, like working at a desk is not, I mean, I obviously sit at a desk some parts of my day even now, but just like sitting at a desk for so many hours, I constantly felt like I had to get up and stretch, and I'd like go to the bathroom and like stretch in there, and then people would come in and be like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? Like, so it just was not, it was not aligned in so many ways, like mentally, spiritually, physically, at all. And I'm happy I listened.
So now you coach people? I mean, have you moved into that space where it's not just like the physical exercise, but you're now into a coaching space?
Yes. Yeah. So I also coach people. So so I was doing Pilates for a while, which I absolutely love, but I felt like it wasn't like a full picture of helping people. It was just like a little part of the picture. And I was constantly getting questions from clients like, oh, like, I love Pilates and I'm seeing you 2 to 3 times a week, but at home, I'm keep finishing my kids' dinners and they're not so healthy and I don't know what to do, or I want to lose weight, or I'm, at this stage in my life, I want to get healthier, whatever it is. And I felt like I couldn't, I like knew things myself, but like I just wanted more knowledge, and I wanted to support clients even more, not just with movement, but kind of like a whole full picture. So now I coach clients, and I don't just, movement's definitely like a good portion of like what I tell them to definitely incorporate. Movement is huge, but it's also what they're eating, it's also their relationships, it's also their spirituality, if they have joy in their life, which is so overlooked and so important, to find ways to create joy, because sometimes we have to create it. It's not like
we do. Yeah,
it's not always like, oh, I wake up, I feel joyful. It's like, no, you have to have certain tools and certain practices that you do, and then that kind of helps to create it. And it's also, how much are you cooking at home, or at least are you eating a lot of whole foods, or are you just eating packaged foods on the go, or are you it's so many things. It's also like your career. Are you happy with your career, or your finances? Like, be like, oh my God, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating so healthy, and I exercise all the time, but I just don't know. I don't feel good. And it's like, oh, well, they're having trouble with like their finances, or they're having trouble in their relationships. So my approach is like a full picture, not just what they're eating, also what's going on in their life, and just bringing it all together. And there's like a lot of magic that happens when you start talking to people and just listening to them and hearing what they're saying. And I love that.
Yeah, and especially now, right? Now is the time when people need the most guidance with, because it's the way things are right now, it's not really conducive to the holistic health like 100%. Idea, right? It's like, you're stay inside, you're asked to not go in the sunlight, you're asked to, be home. And a lot of people are, not used to being home all day and like having to be in such close contact with their family members, all day long, because everybody has to work from home. And, there's a lot of, and the food that's promoted, and just, and here, binge watch this TV show, and it's just not, and no one's moving, and people are unhappy, and they're not getting vitamin D. So right now is the time for people like you to, guide, for sure. So for you, what do you do? So you move your body and you feed it well. What are some other really like practical ways that you pull yourself out of a funk if you're ever in one?
Totally. And I just want to say that, like, just like probably most people during the beginning of the pandemic, I was totally in a funk when I lost my routine. My routine was out of the house, I was going to my studios where I would teach, and I would take classes there as well. So, that was like what kept me grounded and happy. Like, I've got my classes that I go to, and then I had to refigure everything out, reconfigure my whole routine from home, when everything was first shut down. So I totally went through, and of course the news and all that, like, anxiety producing stuff, cortisol raising stuff. I had to figure out how to bring myself out of it again. And so I have a gratitude practice that I do every morning and every night. Every morning I wake up and I
What's your gratitude practice? What is it? Tell me.
Yeah. So it could be, whoever you think is out there, God, the universe, and whatever. I think, my ancestors, anyone really that's assisting me and has the best intentions for me, I connect with them and I connect with God and I say, thank you. I'm so happy. Like when I wake up, I'm so happy I'm back in my body today. Like so grateful I got sleep. I'm so grateful I have a bed to sleep in. And I've actually noticed that it's when you're grateful, at least for me, for those tiny things that seem kind of like, yeah, whatever. I woke up, I have a bed, So many people don't have a bed. So many people sleep outside. And I know it's like, oh, okay, but like there's this problem in my life. And I think when you really are grateful for the tiny things that you might take for granted is really when you are like, wow, I'm really like blessed. And I actually have a lot more than so many people in the world. And so, yeah, so I list everything and every day it's different. Sometimes it's like, oh, I'm grateful I'm healthy today. I'm grateful I have a client to do like a session with today. I'm grateful for my walk. I'm grateful that my dog is healthy. I'm grateful that he woke up today. So it could just be anything and it's different from person to person. And I also do that before I close my eyes. So like when I get into bed or right before, I also think, whatever is out there for my day. And I just try to like say something good that happened. And like I said, every day it's different. Like, oh, maybe I saw a friend and had a conversation, or maybe I saw a family member, or it could be anything. I'm grateful I was alive today. I love that, because in a year when there's been so much sickness and just in general, people can be sick at any time. And if you're healthy, that's a huge deal. That's amazing. And yeah, and I think just being mindful of like your growth. And sometimes we overlook it and we're like, oh, but I need to get further and further. And you're like, well, just take a second and think about how far you've already come and have gratitude for that. So those things help me so much with my anxiety.
I love that. The bookend of the day, like in the morning at the end, you start and end your day with gratitude. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
You almost, like when you start, I agree with you. When you look at like when you can say I'm thankful for just even waking up, or the ability to walk, or the fact that I still have vision, or the fact that I woke up from my sleep, whatever it is, those are actually huge things. But like if you're able to be grateful for even the smallest of things, you really do start to notice. You like kind of train your brain to actually be able to notice more things to be grateful for once you kind of get that ball rolling. Because if you're feeling like, it's a lot of people I know have a hard time even finding it's just like 5 things, right? And if you just start somewhere small, and you could say for the first week you practice it, you could say the same 5 things over and over. You don't even have to pick new things. It'll just kind of start to get the like momentum of being able to like notice what's going well instead of what's not going well, or whatever's lacking, because we have this negativity bias that, human beings, where we notice what's wrong until you train your brain. Like most human beings are noticing what's wrong or what's missing or what's different. So you have to train it to look for the things that are good and that feel good. And you're like, oh, and then you start to look at your life and you're like, oh my God, actually, I'm alive. I can see, I can hear, I can eat, I can sleep, I can walk, and then you can just rattle off a bunch of things. But I definitely love that. Start and end your day with gratitude.
Yeah. And even when I'm eating, like before I love like the concept of mindful eating. So even, I don't know, let's say I prepared like a salad and I'm going to eat it. And sometimes I'm not perfect and I like take a few bites and like, oh wait, I forgot to do this. And then I like go back and do it. And then just being, grateful, like this food is in front of me. Like there's a farmer somewhere who picked it and grew it. And I bought it at the farmer's market and I brought it home and cut it up and put it into a bowl. And it's going to nourish my body and give me nutrients and give me energy. And so just infusing gratitude as much as you can and creating those new neural pathways of just like you said, of seeing things and being like, oh, wow, like I'm so grateful for this. And not being like, oh man, like this went wrong and that's bad. And because you're right, as humans, it's the world we grow up in and just what we see around us and everything kind of, calls for that.
Yep. So you, so for now, like when you've got a client that comes to you, what's like a kind of general protocol to kind of get them going on the like gratitude and eating well, like what's it like basic overall like protocol that you have people kind of, do you have people like look at their pantries and, or like do you have people like, where do you even begin with someone usually?
Yeah, yeah. So some people, yeah, some people, they're not even sure what to buy. They're kind of buying the
Mhm.
wrong thing. So yeah, we'll definitely look at what they're buying, what they're eating, and kind of teach them what ingredients to avoid and not buy, which ones are okay, and healthy swaps and stuff like that. And then, so that's like one part of it. It's like the food and the home cooking and that kind of area, and maybe incorporating more home cooked meals if, let's say, they're eating out all the time, and kind of teaching them how to maybe meal prep and just care for their bodies in that way. And then, yeah, for gratitude, I recommend journaling in the beginning, because it creates the habit. So it could be like any piece of paper, it could even be the notes on your phone, the notes app, whatever, as long as you can do it, and just writing things out, and then just getting into the habit of that. And then once it's a habit, maybe you can just do it in your head, every day, and move on from that. And yeah, and just basically I just meet with someone for the first time, and I'll listen to them, and I'll ask them, I'll give them like a page that they'll fill out, like a health history, and they'll tell me a little bit about themselves, about their health, their general health, their just basically, and like list a bunch of questions. So I'll have some information on them, and then we'll just pick out a couple things, because I don't want to like overwhelm people, because so many people are like, oh my God, like I
Sure.
went to someone and they told me I need to do this, and that's overwhelming. I'm just going to give up. So definitely start slow, start small. We work together through a 6-month program, and there's options to add on more at the end, but at least 6 months, because there's so many people who can guarantee, oh, I guarantee results in 2 weeks, but it's very overwhelming, and people are going to quit, and it's not really sustainable. So healthy lifestyle changes, incorporating small things every day that they can do. And then we meet every other week, and we kind of go over like how was this? Did you incorporate, say, walking? I think walking is huge. It's another thing that helps me so much. I love walking. It's low cortisol. It's not like, oh, I want you to do 10 HIIT classes and a boot camp. And a lot of people, I think most people have stress, so things that induce more stress, I would stay away from. And especially with working with women, and hormones are involved too. I wouldn't say, yeah, you need to do 5 HIIT workouts a week, and then, all this. So yeah, definitely just lowering the cortisol, and this magic just happens that way, when you relieve your stress, because that can also block, let's say someone's goal is weight loss. So they might be doing everything right, and they're like, I don't know, I'm running every single day, and I'm going to HIIT classes, and I'm doing these boot camps, and I'm not losing any weight. I don't know what's going on. And it's actually because they have raised elevated cortisol. They're in a stressful job also, that also is not helping that. They're not sleeping well. That's another huge thing, is sleep. And they're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why I'm not losing weight. So then we take away from those things. All right, well, why don't we swap some of those HIIT classes with some yoga or Pilates, or just walking instead of running? And then they're like, wow, in like a month, like, I can't believe it. Like, I've lost weight, and I'm actually like, it feels like I'm doing like less, but really they're just letting their body relax. They're relaxing their nervous system, and then the weight will just go away. So
Yeah, it's amazing what the body will hold on to, when it's like, just like almost like a caged animal, like just a, where we're kind of abusing it, and we're like pushing it to its limit, and we're like, do what I want you to do, and that's not the way the human
yeah,
body is. Yes, you can push
yeah,
yourself, but yeah, it's, the human body is this incredibly miraculous machine that knows exactly what it's doing. And a lot of times these like prescriptions from, I don't know, social media people or the
oh yeah,
news or whatever, where they're like, it's very promoting of this, overwork mentality, and it's like, you've got to be a boss, and you've got to just like, kill the competition and all those things. When you kind of incorporate those things into your body, I mean, that's not what we're not meant to be like killer. I mean, we're really not meant to be killers. That's not the kind of like, I mean, maybe we're survivors, but this idea that you have to just push yourself nonstop, you know, it leads to overwhelm. It leads to burnout. It leads to just like giving up. Like you said, you've got people that are like, well, I was just told I needed to do all these things, and it's actually do half of that, maybe a quarter of that, and you'll feel better, you'll look better, you'll sleep better, you know, probably be nicer to be around, you know.
Definitely, yeah, because it adds more stress. Like, oh my God, I missed this class, and now I'm gonna gain 10 pounds. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. And sometimes your body needs more sleep, and you don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. to make the class before work. And sometimes your body just needs more rest, and people are so uncomfortable with that. And I think in our society, we don't really honor the like life, death, life cycle. Right. And everything is constantly being born and dying and being born again. And with the seasons, with our energies, with everything. And it makes people very uncomfortable. Like, what, downtime? What do you mean downtime? Like, I know I need to be constantly doing, like, I can't, you know, or I'll tell people like, yeah, like, how much are you resting? You know, especially people that work in high stress corporate jobs and have families and have all this stuff going on. Like, yeah, like, how much are you resting? And I'm like, well, yeah, you know, I was organizing this drawer in my house, and then I reorganized my closet, so I didn't really do anything. I'm like, okay, well, that's doing something.
Not resting. Yeah, that's not resting.
Yeah, and then I'll talk to them, and they're gonna tell me like, oh, well, you know, I feel really guilty when I just like lay down. I feel like I should be doing something. And also with that, you know, if you're resting, let yourself rest. Because if you have guilt about it and you're in your head about it, oh, I should really be doing that or this or that, you're not really resting. And your body's not really relaxing, your nervous system's not relaxing. So you're not moving, but you're not relaxing. So yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think relaxing falls into?
Oh, like priority wise or?
Yeah.
Probably like the very bottom. I don't know, like, yeah, people think they're relaxing when they're not, or they're watching like something stressful on Netflix, like a violent movie or a scary movie, or also something that's raising your cortisol. And like, really, some of these things I see, I'm like, oh my God, like, it's,
so where should it be? If it's on the low end, where should it be for people?
Oh, it should be a high priority, like a high priority. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes. Like, even for me, a couple of weeks ago, you know, I was like planning, of course, there we go, planning all the time. Like, so this week I'm going to go for a walk. And it was like, or right after the holidays, so I guess not that long ago. And then my body was telling me like, no, actually, I need to just lay down and rest today. And at first I was like trying, I'm like, no, like I'm going to go for a walk. And then I'm like, okay, what am I doing? And I just like really rest and allowed myself to just enjoy resting and relaxing. And what happened was the next day I had even more energy and I was able to get more done. So if you really prioritize rest, it seems like, oh, if I do that, I'm going to lose out on all this time and all this stuff I want to do. But really, you're going to add time because you're going to have more energy when you go back to what you were supposed to do. And it's going to be even better. You'll be in a better mood. You'll be happier. Your body will feel better. And, you know, like our body, it's the house of our soul. Like this is like our like vehicle on earth. Like, why aren't we taught to take better care of it? Why don't we prioritize listening to our body and taking care of it and really, you know, just tuning inward? And that's another thing that I recommend is having some sort of meditation practice or just something where people can go inward. And also starting really small with that. Like, I don't like if someone's never meditated, I'm not like, all right, do a 20-minute meditation twice a day.
20 minutes can feel like forever when you're trying to sit still and be quiet.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be very intimidating for people too, because they're like, oh, but I'm so busy. I don't have time for that. You know, so I'll just say, all right, just, you know, try 5 minutes or even 2 minutes. Even start with 2 minutes. And a lot of people are very confused on meditation because they're like, well, I still have thoughts. So like, I don't know, I close my eyes, but like, there's still stuff going on in my head. And I tell them, thoughts are there. Okay. You know, they're still going to come up. It's just about not going into the thought. Like, oh, I'm sitting meditating and my thought is telling me I need to go into the kitchen and organize something, or I need to call this person, or I need to make an email. And it's just observing them. Like, okay, that was a thought, and that was another thought, and that was a thought, and just staying centered and staying in your body. And as much as you can, you know, just dropping into your heart, dropping in, like feeling wherever you're sitting, feeling the chair or the ground or your bed, or wherever you're doing it. And just, yeah, just not allowing your mind to take over. And the more that becomes a practice, the easier it will become also.
It's like a muscle.
And then exactly, yeah. And then you can add more time. So yeah, I see a lot of advice, especially on social media. Like, you need to be doing like keto and paleo and meditating for an hour a day and all. And it's very overwhelming. And that might be that person's practice, which is great. That's wonderful. But to prescribe that to a lot of people, and then they're trying it and they're feeling kind of defeated, like, oh, I tried it and like I couldn't do it. And because that's not like a good starting point. I think baby steps is where it's at. And you build. It's like you create a foundation, you just build on it. And just be, and having compassion, that's another huge thing I teach people. Just be compassionate to yourself. So many people think that they're like, I'm not a judgmental person, and I'm really compassionate. Like, I, love people, and I always give homeless people money when I drive by them or whatever it is. But are you compassionate to yourself? Like, okay, so that's maybe outward. That's great. And we need more of that. Please continue. But it's also about being kind to yourself and having compassion. Like, oh, I feel tired today and I love myself, so I'm going to rest. Or, like that workout was like really hard for me. And this move that the instructor's doing feels a little difficult. I'm just going to modify, whatever the move is. Or just having compassion and being kind to yourself and not judging yourself. There's so many people with so many, whatever they're doing, like, oh my God, like their self-talk will be like, I'm such an idiot. Like, I'm so stupid. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, everyone does it. I do it too, and it's just that rewiring your brain and creating new neural pathways. And if that ever comes up for me, comes up less now because I'm like actively working on it all the time. And I wasn't even aware of it too. I think like a long time ago when I was doing it, I wasn't even aware. When it came to my awareness, I was like, whoa, like, why am I saying that to myself?
Right.
And just saying
all the time, where did that come from? Where's that negative self-talk coming from? Yeah. It is kind of shocking when you realize, like, if you actually, and that's where meditation can come into play, because then you're playing around with like paying attention to being like aware of your thoughts and the crazy things, the boring things, like whatever goes by. But if you really get into that practice, even when you're not actually sitting in meditation, you start to notice your thoughts, which because then you're able to like, I'm not my thoughts. So then when the thought comes in and it's negative or it's self like deprecating, you start to notice it and you're like, oh, wow, that gets said a lot. I wonder how long I've been saying that to myself. Gosh, there's no wonder I don't do better at X, Y, and Z if I'm talking myself out of it all the time. So yeah, it's being able to be aware of your thoughts. I think meditation is probably one of the best ways to practice what that's like, to at least pay attention to what yourself says to yourself.
100%. Yes. Just creating awareness. Yeah. And just tuning in and realizing, because so many people aren't even aware of what's going on in their heads. They're like, yeah, I'm really supportive of my friends and I love my friends, and treat yourself like you're your friend. Would you tell your friend like you're an idiot if they forget something or forget an email or don't do something or whatever it is? No, you would say like, oh, that's okay. Like, just do it now. Or I believe in you. Or that's like another big thing. I like to reprogram my mind when something is difficult. My mind instantly will go to like, oh my God, I can't do it. It's overwhelming. And like all these thoughts. And I just like breathe in, release it out. I'm like, it's okay. I believe in you. You can do this. Yeah. You can do this. Yeah. You can do that. I just have to like tell myself affirmations are huge for me. And I also tell people about them because they can also help reprogram your brain when you're listening to positive things. And another thing people aren't so aware of is like the music they listen to or the things they're watching, which are also extremely negative. And this self-talk can come from anywhere. It can come from our childhood. It can come from just the collective energy too. We're also a part of that, and we might not even realize. We're watching the news a lot. People that watch the news a lot are pretty negative. I don't know if you've noticed that. They'll think, oh my God, the world is just terrible.
I haven't watched the news in over a year, like at all. Yeah. Not even not a smidgen. Yeah. I want no part of it. Yeah, no.
I never watched the news ever in my whole life. And then when the pandemic first happened, of course, like we couldn't get away from the news. They were even texting our phones, being like another lockdown, like So we were tuning in to know, like, do I go to work the next day, or it seemed like important, and it was giving me so much anxiety. And I was thinking, like, how do people watch this all the time? Like, what must it be like for them that they're constantly like plugged in? And I even have like some family members when I'll see like randomly at like gatherings or whatever, and I'll see them like, oh, okay, so that's what it's like, everything is negative, everything's scary, the world is bad. And because the news, that's how they keep you, is with fear. If they told you everything's okay, like go outside, take a walk, you wouldn't tune in.
Yeah,
and they want ratings.
Like, oh, there's nothing to worry about. Okay, I guess I'll just turn this off. They don't want you to turn it off.
No.
Wait till after this commercial break, and we're going to tell you that thing in your kitchen that's killing you silently. And you're like, what do you mean? And it's marketing. Their tactics are tried and true over the last 100 years, and it works. I myself was a big, I guess then there was a period like right after 9/11, got really into watching like cable news at that time. And then there was a pretty good long period that, after that where, Obama was president. And I don't think I really paid attention that much to like news. And then after that shift happened, I felt like this, like, intense calling to be a part of it. And you know what, I have to say, for being on the other side of that very kind of crazy political time that we were in, I wasted a lot of my energy on like the news part of that experience, because it's not like I was doing anything effective. It was just, I was just feeding into the intensity and the drama and the division. Even if you're just sitting on your couch and you're not talking to anybody, you're not doing anything, but you're tuning in to something specific, you're feeding into whatever it is, that they're trying to do. And I've had this really beautiful experience on the other side of that, where I'm able to really, really see that even though there was a lot of things I wasn't doing, but even just watching the news, just tuning into a specific channel, you're basically like raising your hand in support of whatever it is they're doing. And I just have had this wonderful shift where I don't participate in the drama of it, or in the perpetuating of negativity and fighting and division and fear mongering and all of that. There's so many ways to spend your energy, and especially if you're someone like you or I that genuinely wants to help, and you want to fight for the little guy, and you want to like stand up against injustice and all of those things. But there are ways to actually practically do that, where you can spend time and money and energy that have nothing to do with the news and whatever they're trying to, do. And it has been a transformative experience by turning the TV off. Like, I watch sports, and I watch, we watch movies sometimes and things like that, where it's entertainment only.
Yeah.
In small doses, even,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, so many people, even the stuff they're watching, even if it's not the news, they'll watch a lot of like war movies and like action and bloody and like, that's okay, like sometimes. But I mean, personally, I don't really like any of that. But there's just so much that can affect us, and we don't even realize it. We're like, where did that come from? Like, why do I have this anxiety? Why do I feel angry all of a sudden? It's like, well, you were just being programmed by this giant black thing in your wall that's like sucking you in, and everything's programming us. We're like, our brains are just constantly like getting feedback from the world around us. So I try to be very mindful.
Exactly. and very much like what you promote, which is this healthy living, and it's not just food that we consume a lot of things that that is messaging, and like you said, music. Music's a big one for me as well. Lyrics, when you're talking about killing people in a song, like, although anybody's allowed, do whatever you want, it's art, I don't care. But when you take a step back and go, what kind of stories am I listening to? Because that's what a song is. It's a story. What stories am I listening to? Am I listening to things that are like getting my like parasympathetic nervous system, like, what's going on, and it can be from the music and everything else. So it's like, you are what you consume. And genuinely want to live a life where I'm in as much joy as I can be, and just irradiating that outward. But if I'm consuming negativity and I'm consuming um, violence or anything like that on any level, my ability to spread joy just lessens and lessens. Like dims my light.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Just being mindful. I teach
Yeah.
mindset. I try to promote that because you could feel a little bit discouraged when you're like, oh my God, the world is so bad. What do I do? And yeah, for me, just put out there what you want to see, put out positive messages. I don't like to share negative things. I don't, there's enough of that. Okay. There's plenty. If you want negative, like you'll find it. It's everywhere. You don't have to look very hard. And just being kind, being a good person, being happy, being joyful, and sharing that. Because a lot of times, a lot of clients come to me and they think they have all these things they want to fix, but really what I see is like a root problem. They don't have enough joy in their life. It might be overly working. And I'm not saying people need to quit their jobs. Like, no, that's actually, they're supporting their family this way and they're living. But it's just about creating joy, being mindful of what's around you, who you're around. Even work environments can be toxic. And that's another thing I tell people, to eliminate toxic people from your life. Some of them you can't eliminate, could be like your boss, or it could be a family member. Those are a little bit trickier, but just limit your time around them and set boundaries, just energetic boundaries. That's another huge thing, is having boundaries with these things, or with the news, or with social media, with anything. You can have boundaries, and just limiting that time. Like, you're like, okay, well, I need to see this family member. I have no way around it. So I'm just going to be mindful of what I share with them, how much I let what they're saying affect me, or with my boss, or, whatever it is, just being mindful. And yeah, it's huge. It's really huge.
I'm assuming that one of your ways to bring joy into your life is traveling. And because I've been watching you travel all over the place. Like, you went to like Hawaii a couple of years ago. Maybe you've been a million times. I'm not sure, but I'm specifically thinking there was a time, I think it was like a black sand beach or something that you were on, and I was like, oh, that looks like heaven on earth. So what's your favorite? Give me your top like place that you felt maybe most alive in, that you've been to.
Love that question. Yes. So I love traveling. It's before the pandemic, it was like what I was doing multiple times a year. I just went to Hawaii recently in September. And probably my top 3 places. Well, I love Bali. I studied some Pilates stuff there too, and then I was also there exploring, and I loved the energy. I loved being there. There was also a really cool black sand beach there too, and I'm obsessed with like different colored sands. I'm like in love with it.
Magic.
Yeah, it's so magical. And then Greece was amazing. Also, they had like red sand and black sand, and like I'm like obsessed with different color sand. So Greece, Bali, and I would say Italy. I loved Italy. The people are so friendly. The food is amazing, and it's different food than we have in the US. So you can actually eat pasta and you can eat these things, and they're not going to bloat you and affect you, because I can go on and on about that. But the food system is very different in Europe, and there's a lot of banned things that we have here that they don't. So the food just affects you a lot differently. So I love Italy, I love Greece, love Bali, and of course Hawaii, because it's close by, and it's very magical there.
Yeah, I would have to say Bali's on my to-do go places list, for sure. My husband and I really want to check out Belize. Like, we went to Costa Rica a couple years ago, and it was probably one of my more favorite places. Like, that was probably one of my favorite trips altogether, just because it had all the things that I love in a vacation, and the people and the food and the wildlife, and the wildlife alone, the animals, I was like, oh, I could just live. Can I just live in this jungle with all these creatures? But Bali is one of those places that I would very much like to go. Where did you go in Greece?
So in Greece, I went to Athens, which was it was okay. It's like a city, so it's like
Athens too,
it's like something to like check off your list. Like, okay, I saw it.
Well, the Parthenon, these are like thousands of years old. It's very cool.
That was very cool. Yes, that was amazing. I loved Santorini. It felt like it was so special there. And I loved Mykonos. And just like the water is so beautiful, and like the people also, like the people are very, very friendly. In Santorini, they had like a red sand beach, which I thought was like so special. I'd never seen a red sand beach before. And they also had a black sand beach, and it's like a big volcano, I think, too. So that's like where the color of the sand comes from. I just thought it was very unique and special. And in Mykonos, I just loved, I went with my friend, and we rode around in these, they have like ATVs, and we got, that was like our transportation throughout the island. And it was just so fun and like carefree. And it was like the best time ever, because it was pre-COVID. And
I know, pre-COVID. You know, before we hadn't a care in the world, and now
not a care.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I still don't have a lot of cares in the world, but I do have to conform to, you know, the way things are these days. So,
of course.
You know, travel is just one of those things that has changed, you know, quite a bit, but it still must be done. I do really, truly believe in stepping outside of your little box. You know, the more of the world that you see, the easier it is to connect with the idea that you are connected to other people, or that there are other people besides Americans or Californians or Los Angelinos. There are other people out there, and like, you know, ecosystems and all this stuff, that we're all on this like planet. You know, travel is this really great mind opener and heart opener to, you know, to connect with your humanity. Because if you never travel anywhere, it's easy to be like, you know, to in your mind not connect with the fact that there are human beings, you know, in Europe and there, and those, you know, you can just be very separate. But when you go and you integrate into a you know, a community, you know, a city, a town, a culture, you know, it opens you up. Like, it just, instead of living in this very small world, you know, so the more places people see it, the better. You know, for your
100%. Yeah, definitely. I'm so grateful for all those experiences. And it's great that you got to do them.
You'll still do them, you know?
Yes, definitely.
Maybe not twice a year now. Maybe you can only go once a year, but, or even every couple of years. But so could you leave us with like, what is Katherine's goal from here? Like, what is your next milestone that you are working towards?
I just want to share wellness, health and wellness, and, you know, just healing and all that with more people, and work with more clients to help them, because I really believe in everything has a ripple effect. So if you help one person, that person goes to their family, and they help them, and then that person goes to a friend, and, you know, it just helping people heal, being happier, connecting with more people. And I also, so I have an Instagram, Holistically Katherine, and a website, holisticallycatherine.com. And just reaching more people and connecting with them and working with more clients and helping them change their lives. And in the future, I mean, that's probably going to change. If you talk to me in another few years, I'll probably tell you different goals. But for now, that's what I want to do.
And for now, it's a beautiful goal, right? And you're actually able to do it. And yes, starting with the individual and then just rippling out from there, you know, then it can't help itself but become a global thing at that point, you know, just that butterfly effect, which is awesome. So can you say one more time your Instagram handle so people can find you there?
Yes. So my Instagram is @holisticallycatherine, and my website is holisticallycatherine.com.
Awesome. Check out Katherine's page, check out her website. You know, if you're looking for some really practical, soft, easy approaches to, you know, look at your life holistically and improve, you know, the way you move and the way you eat, she is your girl, you know, so 100% go check her out on Instagram and her website as well. So thank you so much, Katherine, for, you know, carving the time out on a Monday and joining me at the, you know, the beginning of this new year and staying connected with me all these years. I just appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you too. Thank you.
All right, guys. So this has been In My Best Life with Susannah Sprague and my amazing guest, Katherine, and she's your holistic wellness coach. So I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses There are no products in the market with the ingredient Nasset. Nasset increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.